Here we go.
Here we go.
Welcome to the BirdGang Nation sports media show, repping the greatest team of all time. Let's go! BirdGang 31, he be the host with the most. We going deep, burning teams. They ain't nothing but toast. It's in your rest there. Sirianni put me in coach, running like Miles Sanders till I bumped my head on the post. Touchdown! Yeah, that's coming. Devontae's crazy route running. Jalen hurting them, throwing lasers to break a young gunning. Come on! On the D side, we ride, sack him with Fletcher, lay him out on the stretcher. No one can protect you. Watch Darius lay him, shutting down your routes. Come on! In my green John, eating Philly cheesesteaks. Put up your cups, wings up, if you can relate. Tailgating at the link like Gangsta Stride. To the BirdGang Nation, that's worldwide. On Sundays, catch the pre and post game. Mondays is Birds on Broad Street with Philly Notion and Cool Cat, the man in motion. And Wednesdays, the midweek special got you open with JC from Eagles Talk. Hitting like B-Dog, baby.
What is up, y'all? Hunter Doyle here from Philly Insider Podcast here with Sanjay George. That was thunder. I don't know if anyone heard that, but it's currently not nice weather here. Sanjay, how you doing, man?
Doing good, on this busy Thursday evening, just taking some time to talk sports. Relax, you feel me?
I feel you, man. I know you got that 2:30 to 7:30, and you still got to go home too after that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad this is able to be a good break time for you. Guys, we're going to be going live on at this time exactly every Thursday from now on, pretty much. That's the time we're going to be doing the show right before Thursday Night Football, so we get you guys the content before then. And that way we can have Sanjay on for the first half hour as well. So with that said, Sanjay, you are kind of, Panthers are kind of your second team.
I do like them.
And it's that week. I don't really feel like there's much we need to talk about last week. We talked about a lot of that on our own page. Make sure you guys go check out our page in the description. Make sure you guys go check out all the network links in the description and all that. So how are you feeling? I know you've been watching the Panthers a little bit. What do you think about this matchup coming up?
So the biggest thing to note is, for those of you who don't know, Christian McCaffrey did practice on Wednesday. He did also practice today, and he is feeling good. That's a quote from him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So all signs point to him playing this Sunday. If you're banking on him being out, that's probably not going to happen. Other big hits being the addition of Stephon Gilmore to that Panthers cornerback room. When last week we saw the Cowboys really exploited the Panthers not really having that second corner. But, ain't nobody going to do that to Gilly. Nobody is ever going to do that to Gilly.
No.
So that weakness kind of just flew off the board. Basically, they just made a whole lot of moves. And with CMC back in the mix now, you have to wonder how that took the coaching staff by surprise. Were they already game planning for him? Were they not? This is a winnable matchup, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't a close game. Yeah.
Definitely. I think that you see from last week with the Cowboys game that we should be fairly evenly matched with the Panthers. I take that back. I think the Panthers definitely have the edge, but I think considering how the Panthers played against the Cowboys, and I don't really like to compare how two teams played against another team, but I do think it kind of shows what level they're on, and that maybe they're not like a 3-0 level team or 3-1 level team, but they're a world better than they were last year, and I think they're still going to be competing for a playoff spot. at the end of the day. Like, I think they should definitely grab one of those wild card spots. I think they have a lot of potential. And Sanjay, first I want to talk about Phil Snow's defense. I think that's the big thing, the headline. I mean, my goodness, those guys are flying around. I'm sure you've seen it. It's kind of almost like Baltimore, Arizona, and Minnesota, where they just put so many guys at the line of scrimmage, and few of them will bail out, but oftentimes the offensive line isn't able to communicate on
the look changes every few snaps, man. Like, there's no way to keep track of any of it.
So you're often going to get a tackle stuck with an outside rusher and an inside rusher, and you're going to have to take the inside guy, because if you don't take the inside guy, then it's going to be a quicker sack. But you always have to take the inside guy. And then, when you have Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick coming off the edge with as athletic as they are, that's near impossible. I mean, it's pretty much, it doesn't matter which guy you take at that point. So talk a little bit about the pressure, the just aggressive nature that they've had. They're able to play a lot more man coverage, especially, even though J.C. Horn goes out, like you said, they add Stephon Gilmore right back there. And their cornerback room is disgusting right now. I think any of those guys could start on the Eagles. So they're able to play a lot more man coverage. So talk a little bit about what you've seen from the defense, how dominant they've been, with last week as the outlier. I mean, what have you seen from them?
So first off, I just want to say I've been following the Panthers for about 8 years now. It's been about that long, dang near a decade.
Yeah.
And this team has always loved to have the defensive identity. Going back to the days of Riverboat Ron, like, they have loved to anchor their team identity in defense. It's been that way for a long time now. Going back to rest well, the legend. He's not dead, but like, he is retired. Rest well, Luke Kuechly. Oh my goodness, watching that man fly around the field was something different, my God. But anyway, going back to present day, that Panthers defense, they do it in reverse. Most teams start with the pass rush and then go to the secondary. The Panthers kind of work from the outside in that their corners and secondary are just so elite that they can just hold their wideouts for so long. It gives the defensive pass rush so much time, because the quarterback just has to keep looking, and any routes that typically do get by them are longer developing. So then the quarterback's got to hold the ball more, or he's got to throw the ball up there and trust his receiver can come down with it, which against those DBs, you don't know if he will.
Right.
All that being said, they kind of work from the outside in terms of that. That's not to say their pass rush is bad.
Right.
It's definitely above average, but it's not quite the fueling factor to me of that passing game defense. And then, bro, I just have to say this. I don't know how well I want to gauge their linebackers yet, because their linebackers have been playing their role, especially in Phil Snow's defense, like you said, which it's a lot of complex movement. It doesn't really highlight the linebacker position too well, but what it does is it uses them as pieces, basically, to, like you said, sometimes they're coming on the blitzes, other times they're bailing into different coverages. So, like, I give them credit for that too. We've been talking a lot lately, actually, like you mentioned, the other teams, the Cards and other teams like them, which run all these complex defenses.
Right.
They're great applied, but it's so difficult to execute that from a player personnel perspective. Like, the amount of different responsibilities, you got to make sure you're switching them up correctly, because if somebody doesn't take their responsibility and you're switching the defensive scheme every few plays, well, then there's eventually going to be a busted coverage somewhere. So, yeah, my point being, I love this defense. They've been performing out of their minds. They've really just helped anchor the games so far in this season and just let Sam Darnold manage them into wins, which right now is like the best way to like get him revived into his career. And by the way, my Sam Darnold love is looking better and better by the day. Like, it really was. He really has revived his career coming out from under the Jets, coming to the Panthers. But we're staying on the defense, and I just got to say, man, that defense is something. That defense is going to be one of the top 10 in the NFL probably by the end of this year, possibly top 5.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, to your point, too, with a lot of those guys at the line of scrimmage, the Panthers can do that because they just have athletes all around. I mean, I kind of hinted at it with Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick, but then you got Shaq Thompson, who has played a world better than last year. I mean, he was not good in 2020. By the way, might not play this week. So that could be huge.
I did not know that. Okay.
Because like you said, like, linebacker position hasn't necessarily been their highlight. I mean, they've been playing the roles, but there's not really many guys that have been that great there. So that could be big. I mean, that could really, really help this Eagles team. And then, I mean, even then, still, you got Jeremy Chin on the back end, who I'm a big fan of. We interviewed his teammate, Madre Harper from Southern Illinois. Yeah, like they've just got – and Dante Jackson, I know he's not the best outside corner, but he's fast, and he's going to swim to the ball in the short game and the run game. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to go lock up your number one receiver, but I think we saw enough evidence last week that the Panthers secondary without Gilly is not going to be able to lock up guys. But with Gilly, and not to mention, I mean, they also bring
Henderson
in
is there too. Yep.
CJ. I was just about to say CJ Henderson, former first-round pick, who I think the Jags give up on him a little early. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to pan out. I'm not that type of guy. But, I mean, year two, I think you give a corner until at least year three before you maybe do something. Maybe they're worried about him putting more bad tape out there, which is a fair point. But I don't know. I mean, and he's not even going to be starting this year for most likely. And you can kind of groom him behind this veteran, experienced cornerback room there, which I think is huge. They did lose Justin Burris. I think it was in the Texans game, which that hurts. I believe he was playing pretty well too, at least from what I saw. And so now they have Sean Chandler, I think, is back there. Another Temple guy under Matt Rule. That's at least who they have on the depth chart. So they do have some injuries, and obviously JC is out for a couple months. Rather than having
I still don't know how he broke multiple bones in his foot on that play. I've gone back and watched that play, but I just don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I actually didn't see it, but I was riding high because a lot of people told me I was crazy for saying the Eagles should consider him at pick number 6.
He's filthy, bro.
What do you know? He went pick number 8, even though we traded back. So I felt very validated the first couple weeks, and then he got hurt, so that kind of sucked. But yeah, he is the man, and you can play him inside, outside. I mean, I feel like even in just 12 minutes, we covered a lot of what the Panthers defense is, to be honest. I mean, I don't know if you wanted to add anything, maybe if you have some more information. That was just kind of the base stuff I wanted to cover.
I don't think there's anything more I would really say to really focus on. I'll just say this. Hurts isn't going to get away with careless throws this week. All those careless, close to picks he's been throwing in past weeks, he's not going to get away with that. If he decides to throw those balls, we're going to be giving up interceptions this game.
Yeah, I did. Thanks for mentioning that, because it reminded me, while we did cover the Panthers defense, I mean, we could probably get into how it relates to the Eagles offense matching up with them too. And I think going along with those pressure packages, 4 new faces on that offensive line. And I know they all started together last week, but this is going to be different, where they're going to have to face a lot of complex blitzes. The Panthers will still, the thing with them is, while they can play more man coverage now, they'll mix it up too. Like they won't just go man coverage. Like last year they went a lot of cover 3, and they're still going to do that and send some fire zone blitzes out of that. So I think, whether it's zone coverage or man coverage, pressure is going to be coming. And I think that, considering there's four new offensive linemen, communication takes time to develop. And while all these guys, even though Landon Dickerson doesn't have starter experience, I mean, he's started at left guard at a very high level, and he looked more comfortable there last week, I'll say. I mean, it was only the Chiefs, but you still have Dillard, who's been a starter before in his career. You have Herbig and Driscoll, who practically started the entire 2020 season together. And, Kelsey is the mainstay. While these guys have all started, this is only the second week this specific group has been together. So I worry about how they communicate and handle those stunts and handle these types of pressures together, and whether they're going to be able to hold up all game. And I also worry about, in the run game, the zone read game against these types of athletes. Like, it's kind of like how we talk about Micah Parsons. Like, you're not going to want to isolate him on the edge. Same thing, I know Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick aren't him, but Hassan Reddick was a former defensive back at Temple. Brian Burns is a freaking athlete. Like, these are not guys you want to isolate on the edge. And if Jeremy Chin comes down to the line, or, if Shaq Thompson does play and he's down at the line, blitzing and stuff like that, like, it's going to be tough. I think they're going to need to go back to the quick pass game like they did last week. And I think with the run game, just because the Panthers are good at stopping the run doesn't mean you have to move away from it. I just think it means you got to throw some change-ups in there, like the end around we had last week. Throw a reverse in there every once in a while. 2 things I've been calling for the Eagles to do for a while now. overloading it, but throwing them in there every once in a while, just keep them off balance. Just like little things like that. Just different designs with the run game, I think, will be big. And establishing the screen game, I think, as well, to, it's an aggressive Panthers defense. You get them on the screen game, you get guys coming downhill. You can kind of hit them with that. And also take a page out of Joe Brady's book last week with how he got Sam Darnold those 2 rushing TDs. Like, he had the running back come across on kind of like that swing motion, and then Sam Darnold just went up the middle because Micah Parsons went with the running back. And then he had the little speed option that scored Sam Darnold too. Like, there are ways to still establish the run. Like, I don't want that to be an excuse for Sirianni not to go to the run game, even though I know he's not going to. I don't want that to be an excuse for him to move away from the run game just because the Panthers are good at it. Like, you can still find ways to do it. So I know I kind of went on a little tangent there, but what are your thoughts on that? And if you want, after that, I don't know if I have too much else to go over. Maybe if you want to get into the receivers a little bit, tight ends too, passing game as a whole, you can. But after that, we can kind of move into the Panthers offense before you have to head out.
I got you. Well, to start with the matchups, man, like you said, Sirianni already hasn't run the ball a lot in our previous weeks against this defense.
Yeah.
I have a hard time picturing he will. And this is the part that gets me. In the run game, which is what I think is the bigger indictment on him. In the run game, he hasn't been that creative. They've been very plain plays where it's just handoffs out of shotgun.
Yeah.
No, not even tosses. Where are the tosses? Other teams at least run tosses to get their guys to the outside against maybe a corner or something. I mean, we don't even got tosses. No alteration in how he does the run game. It's been very simplistic. Phil Snow is going to eat that for breakfast. It's just not happening. So, I don't know how much faith I have in the run game this week. I just don't. Aside from Sirianni's lack of commitment to it, his lack of scheme for it isn't encouraging either. And then when you go to the outside, man, our wideouts versus those corners. Let's see how this goes. What up?
Need some rub routes in there.
A few, yeah. And you can't have people, no offense. I know J-Jaw getting called on that was eh. But he's got to know he can't get in there with that.
Mm.
But my point being, and then you go to the tight ends. I don't know. That's something I am encouraged by. The tight end usage over the past few weeks is pretty much the only encouraging aspect of our offense, in that Sirianni has finally realized that Dallas Goedert is a beast. So he's been calling more plays for him. And Ertz is still around, Ertz still gets his plays. He still gets his catches every here and there. Comes in on a few big plays. So, the tight end usage going up is really the only encouraging thing, I think, from our matchups of late. And like we've talked about, mostly their linebacker position isn't exceptional, especially if Shaq Thompson isn't in. So the tight end usage may have to really be a focus of the offense this week.
Mm.
But yeah, that's pretty much that's all I really got, man. I don't know. We don't match up too well against this defense. We really don't.
No, we do not. And I think going along with the tight end usage in the run game as well, got to keep Miles, Kenny, and Goddard in to protect at some points, and just 6-7 man protection, because there will be times where they'll send a lot of guys too. But I want to get your thoughts on the Panthers offense before we head out too, and then I'll kind of cover the rest. But what do you think about? I kind of did a deep dive on the Panthers defense this week just because I think that's the headliner for me. So you can kind of give us a little more information on the offense. What have you seen from Darnold that's made him a lot better? How is Brady helping him get more comfortable? And how have they just been able to spread the ball around while also feeding guys like DJ Moore and C-Mac when they're in the offense?
One, I'll say this. The biggest thing, and I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the defense, the biggest thing that's led to Sam Darnold's revival is that he hasn't had to do everything. Joe Brady isn't asking him to do everything. Those playmakers aren't putting him in bad positions. He's got guys like DJ Moore, CMC coming back. Robbie Anderson is over there. He's got Dan Arnold isn't with them anymore, so I wonder who their tight end is now. He was involved in the C.J. Henderson trade. But my point being, he's got weapons. He's got playmakers around him. That offensive line is solid. And this is another big thing. Brady has decided to let Darnold use his legs. In New York, that wasn't really an emphasized part of their offensive game plan for him at all. With the Panthers, Brady, now when he'll specifically clear out spaces using the route combinations to get Darnold space. And man, I'm really proud of him, but at the same time, I need to see Darnold under some actual pressure where he has to be forced into making tough throws. Because so far, all that Darnold has been doing, what's up?
Gannon.
Oh my gosh. My whole point being, so far what Darnold has been doing is, like I said, he's been above average game managing, very similar to the Alex Smith style of about 5 years ago, in that he makes all the right plays. He's not doing anything to lose you the game. And at some points, he's playing above average. But he hasn't delivered a consistent performance where the offense has been relying on him. That hasn't happened yet. That is the only knock you can put on him if you want to this season, is that he hasn't put the team on his back, per se, like pulled a win out of nowhere. So my point being, if you can make the passing game force Darnold to make more big throws, to make more big plays, that I think is the best way to attack this Panthers offense. Just because outside of that, DJ Moore is a beast, man. He was a beast last year, but they didn't target him as much. But now, Darnold back there, he is getting his chances, especially on those deep routes. Darnold loves finding Moore for those deep routes because Moore can go up there and just win the ball. And then with CMC, too, sometimes a simple check down becomes like a 30-yard gain. So, you never know how it's going to be with that. And Robbie Anderson is always there for the deep threat if he wants that. That connection's been there for like years now.
Yeah.
So, that offense is something. But I think the best way for us to exploit it is by forcing Sam Darnold to be the hero. If Sam beats us, he beats us. But you can't just let these other playmakers like DJ Moore and CMC have absolute days. You got to focus in on them and then hope that Sam Darnold doesn't decide to play hero.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think, I have DJ Moore on my fantasy team, so I know how good he's been. I've enjoyed having him, and I watch the games sometimes just to watch to see if he's going to get points. And he's dirty. I mean, he's always been really good, but like you said, they're targeting him now. They're making him a focal point of the offense, which honestly, I mean, it should have been the case all along, but I don't know why. I mean, I guess it was just the quarterback situation and the offensive scheme before Joe Brady got there in last year. I mean, Teddy just kind of spread the ball around, but like you said, Robbie's great. Another Temple guy. I mean, didn't they, who's their third guy? Did they add, I mean, I know they lost Curtis Samuel, but they added David Moore, right?
I can't verify that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I really can't. I know Terrence Marshall is with them too, but I don't know how many snaps he's been getting.
Yeah, he's Marshall a little bit. I've heard he's gotten better as the weeks have gone on, but I just think he's still like going through some rookie growing pains, which is fine when, I mean, he's not the guy. So you can give him some time there. And, I mean, he has potential too. Tight end position. I'm trying to remember. I don't know who the backup to Dan Arnold was. Right. Cause like you said, he got traded. They brought him over. It's interesting. Because you were talking about how the Cardinals kind of parallel the Panthers kind of parallel the Cardinals in certain ways. And they're going to be the Cardinals of last year. And it's funny you mentioned Dan Arnold came over from Arizona.
That's true. That is,
I can find.
They definitely mirror the Cards like from last year a good bit. In that they're starting off very hot with the QB. A lot of people were doubting like in the past if he could really succeed. But I think this Panthers team is a bit more built for the long run, if that makes any sense. Mm. The Cards last year kind of just all did it off offensive explosiveness. This Panthers team is a bit more well-rounded overall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just looked it up. They have Ian Thomas, who's obviously been there for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Tommy Tremble, who they drafted out of Notre Dame this year, and then Colin Thompson, who is another Temple guy from years ago. I think he's from Doylestown, PA, which is pretty cool. But I'll tell you what I've heard. I haven't watched them exclusively or anything, or seen them. I know they haven't done much in the pass game. What I've heard is that they're all pretty awful in the run game. So hopefully that'll help us out. But again, when you have C-Mac, that's not really going to that's just like a slight. I mean, it's not really even going to make that much.
C-Mac is his own offensive lineman, at least one. He can cover for one of them.
For real.
He's not a whole line, but he's one offensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly. So if we can kind of limit him, prevent him from getting going, that would be huge. But again, they've still got so many guys around there. What do you think of the offensive line, man? How have they played?
I think so. Brady incorporating Darnold's mobility has really helped the offensive line in that they don't have to hold up completely as much as they used to have to with Teddy B anymore. Darnold can kind of take some of the pressure off them with his legs. at the same time, that offensive line hasn't been bad by any means. I don't know any of the names off the top of my head on there, but they've been keeping Darnold fairly upright. And mind you, the schedule was pretty trash to start.
I know they added Cam Irving this offseason too.
Yeah.
I believe he's playing left tackle.
Okay, noted. But point being, the early teams so far in this season have been kind of trash who they've had to face. So maybe that's making the line look better. But I think that line has looked solid through 4 weeks now. I'd give them 6.5, 7 out of 10. But that's against terrible competition, mind you. So let's see if they can keep it up against our defensive line.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, I know you got to go in a few minutes.
Yeah, I got to get out of here.
Anything you wanted to say before you hop off?
I mean, I kind of win and lose either way with this game. So I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. This is always a very conflicting game for me. It doesn't happen too often. But whenever it does, it's just a whole lot of conflicts. I'm going to be riding with the Birds to win because heaven knows we need it right now. But, dude, this is going to be a fun game to watch. I think it'll also be very indicative of where both teams are right now.
Mm.
And especially, I think we're going to really have to, man, I really hope Sirianni can just step up his offensive scheme this game. That's all I'm really hoping. If I can see that, I think I'll be good. But, yeah, man, that's all I want to close out on. Thanks for having me. Fly, Eagles, fly. Love being on here. Have a good one, everyone. God bless you all.
Peace out, Sanjay. Appreciate you, man. Well, with that said, guys, I'll be covering the last half hour. So if you guys want to drop any comments, any questions y'all have, we'll take them. But, yeah, I think big thing being, like Sanjay said, with Sirianni, he's got to step up this week. Like I said, throw some change-ups in there. Keep that Panthers defensive line and front as a whole off balance because, you can't just be running the ball down their throat. That's not going to work. You're not going to win running the ball in between the tackles. You're going to have to get out on the edge, whether it be with Rager, Smith, wide receivers, or whether it just be with Gainwell and Miles getting some pitches outside. And also just the execution, too. Look, Zach Ertz dropped the touchdown last week. Greg Ward dropped the touchdown. Hurts overthrew a touchdown, and the penalties. The countless penalties. You can't just be this undisciplined the whole season. If you're going to play this undisciplined, we're going to have a lot of issues. So discipline's got to be better. Just the offensive game plan as a whole. Yeah, it's not going to fly. And what's going on, Robert? Good to see you in here. Yeah, I completely agree. This schedule, like I said in the thumbnail, the road does not get any easier from here on out. And this game, I think we're going to learn a lot about how much the Eagles want this. Look, I'm not expecting them to be a playoff caliber team this year. I'm not expecting them to put up 11, 12 wins. I'm expecting them to come out here this game and show that they want to win this and that they want it bad enough and they're going to take it home, even if it's against a good defense and a good overall team, to be honest. They're not the best team in the league, but they are a very well-rounded team, as Sanjay said before he headed out. They've got a lot of firepower on both sides of the ball. So I think we're going to find out a lot about the Eagles this week. I think we just got to see guys step up and come up in key situations and just take it one play at a time. I think the Eagles have been just playing catch-up too often this season and looking ahead a lot of time. But one play at a time, one quarter at a time, one game at a time, one drive at a time, whatever it may be. Get it done. If they come out with a loss this week, it is what it is. But I want to see them fight and show some grit because 1-4 is not a spot you want to be in. 1-3 is one thing, but you go down to 1-4. I mean, things go sour real quick. They can, especially when you have the Bucs. I know it's a short week. The Bucs could be a win just because, short week, you never know what could happen. I mean, Foles beat Brady on a short week last year. And, you never know what can happen with injuries, too. I mean, guys could be out that you don't expect to be out come Sunday. And then Thursday, they might not be ready to play. So that could be a win. You never know. And then after that, we've got not Oakland, Las Vegas, who's been really, really good. Saints, I think, coming up shortly after that. I think that might be a little bit further down the road. I'm forgetting the schedule right now. But look, the competition's not getting any easier, and we've got a tall task on our hands. So I will say, Dickerson, I want to see how Dickerson plays. I think I'd love to see him play a little bit better. I think he played better at left guard last week. I really do. I think that it was the right move after him only being at right guard for a short time to put him back. He didn't get too used to the right guard. Still knows his roots in left guard and center on that side. So I like seeing him there. I think it was the right move, especially when Herbig can play either spot equally well, I would say. I thought he played well. And Mailata too. Not Mailata. Dillard. I thought, he did have the penalties that were infuriating like the rest of the team, but I think it's fair to say Dillard in pass protection and in the run game has played pretty well the first couple weeks here. I think that's fair to say. And as far as the rest of the line goes, Johnson's not playing. Actually, Philly Girl just commented that. Thoughts on Johnson? Look, personal matter, we have no idea what's going on. I completely disagree with the fans who are berating, or I guess berating's the word. Look, you don't know what's going on with Lane Johnson. I mean, look, he's still a human at the end of the day. He might be a professional football player, but he's a human as well. So let's not get on Lane Johnson. Let's keep in mind that this guy probably has a lot going on right now that we don't know about. And look, let him take his time. Same with Darius Slay. He's dealing with a personal matter. I know we're all ticked off at him about his little tweet that he said only 2 receivers, I think, have gone over 100 or whatever. We'd probably have to fact check that. There'll probably be a ton of guys that went over 90 but under 100. Still put up numbers on it. But I think, with those two, let them take their time. You don't know anything about what's going on. We have no right to know either. That's Lane Johnson's business and only Lane Johnson's business. So lay off of him for a little bit. And, yeah, that's my thoughts on Lane. In terms of the actual football perspective, it's a big loss. I think Driscoll has done a fine job in this year in his one game and last year. I think he was great last year. And I think Driscoll has potential to be a starting caliber offensive lineman. I don't know how elite of an offensive lineman he'll be or how above average he'll be. That remains to be seen. I think we just have to continue to see him play more. But I think he's absolutely got the potential to be at least an average starter. And I think that's probably an understatement. I think Driscoll's played really well. And, I completely agree. Like, I hope he can come back as well and that he's okay. That was my whole point. I completely agree with you. So you weren't negative at all. It's just I've seen a lot of fans out there actually saying that, we need to know what's going on with Lane and, it's not your right to know. So that's kind of what I was referring to, not your comment. But, yeah, offensive line I think is going to have a tough task with, I didn't even mention with Sanjay. Like, they've got Derek Brown in the middle and Daquan Jones. Derek Brown being one of their first-round picks in the past couple of years. I believe it was 2020. First-round pick. He's really come on. I mean, big dude from Auburn. He was pretty much the Panthers had that pick locked in before the draft even started. We knew that. And I don't think they drafted an offensive player that year, if I'm not mistaken. Derek Brown, and they added Daquan Jones. Daquan Jones has had a really good year in the run game, and I believe he's been pretty good in the pass game too. Not to mention Morgan Fox joined this team this year, who's pretty athletic and has I think, a couple half sacks or a couple combined sacks here and there. He's off to a good start. Like, they have just got reinforcements even alongside Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick. Like, they've got names there, names that a lot of people don't know, but names that are making an impact. Just if you guys missed it, drop any comments you guys have. I'm just going to be going for like about the next half hour. So I'll have plenty of stuff to talk about, but since Sanjay can't be here for the last half hour, I mean, anything you guys want to talk about, drop in the comments and I'd be willing to talk about it. But yeah, as far as the offensive line, like, this is going to be a tough one, especially in the run game too. And wow, Philly just says he's been told the Lane Johnson situation may last throughout the year. No rush from the Eagles and to get him back, which is totally fair too. Sucks for Lane Johnson. I don't know what's going on, but prayers out to him, man. That is really sad, whatever's going on, and keeping him in prayer. And I wish him the best. From a football perspective, looking forward to seeing more of Driscoll too. I think he's got a lot of potential, and do hope to see Lane back out there at some point this season or next year. And if he's ready to come back, whenever he's ready to come back, I'm going to be really excited to see him out there, just because he deserves a lot of love for what he's done for the Eagles organization on and off the field throughout the years. So props to him. Rich GMC says, "What does the box say?" Love that. Like you guys said, Lane's a warrior. Presence definitely missed, so it's going to be difficult without him. But thank you for the news, Philly. We do appreciate that. All love and support whenever he decides to come back. And Richie, you did miss Sanjay. He's on here for the first half of the show on these Thursdays. Unfortunately, he's at school. It's just a nice little break for him. So, yeah, he can't be on for the last half hour. But if you want to see Sanjay, he was on the first 25 minutes of this. So I recommend you go rewind and do check that out. But we might start a little bit earlier just so that Sanjay can get on here and have a full half hour. And maybe if his class ends early or something, he can hop on early and be on here for the majority of the time. So, yeah, but you guys got any questions, drop them. Going along with the offensive line, I mean, Sanjay talked a little bit about the receivers. Yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a tough challenge. I mean, Stephon Gilmore, first week in the new scheme. We'll see how he does. But, Devontae, that'll be a really, really good test for him early on. I'm excited to see how Devontae does. And Devontae's played really well, I think. Even in the games where he hasn't put up numbers, he's been open. I mean, if you go watch the All-22, he's been open. So he's been getting separation. Hasn't been perfect. I mean, there's been plays he could certainly do a little better on. He's a rookie. But I think Devontae's been awesome. Rager, I want to see more of. If you're going to have Dante Jackson going on you, that could really go either way. I mean, Dante's a pretty good player. He's a little more experienced, obviously, but I think Rager's got a few tricks up his sleeve here and there. I don't think he's first-round pick caliber, but, that's a conversation for another time. I do think that Rager can do some damage against him, or Quez. I mean, Quez as well. Let's not forget about Quez. Quez has been awesome on tape as well. I've really enjoyed watching his tape. He just continues to get separation and, just a great deep threat too. I mean, Sirianni uses him deep a lot. I wish he would use him a little more underneath. I think he's been used quite a bit underneath, but not enough. So love to see more of that. And Kenny G out wide too. Like you can line him out wide and hopefully get a favorable matchup with a linebacker, especially if Shaq Thompson's going to be out. You can get a lot of favorable matchups with Kenny G out there if there's not going to be as good of an athlete on him. And, hopefully Miles Sanders. I don't know how much we're going to use him. We haven't used him very much in recent weeks. I've been disappointed about that. It's just criminal at this point. But I do hope we see more of him. I hope we see more of him in the screen game to keep these guys off balance. I hope we see more of Kenny as well. I mean, I think we saw a lot of Kenny last week just as a result of the check down. I don't know if it was necessarily them making Kenny the focal point. I think there were certain plays you can point to, but I think a lot of it was just he was getting a lot of checkdowns, and he does stuff after the catch. Like he gets numbers, so good to see. And hoping to see the running backs more involved and hopefully help out in pass protection too. I wish Jordan Howard was up here because the red zone issues have just been infuriating. I don't know. I don't know where they go from here. Maybe if they ran the ball a little bit more in the red zone, they'd be more successful. Again, like I said, take a page out of Joe Brady's book. But was it Jalen Smith or did they release another player in addition to him, Robert? I'm curious to hear. Jordan Mailata is back. Jack Driscoll gets bang up for the Thursday game versus the Bucs. Move Mailata to right tackle and have Dillard at left. It's a good question. I think they just I don't know. Well, man, that's a tough question. I really don't know what you do in that situation. I think my first thought, that's a really good question, Richie. My first initial thought is that you keep you put Mailata back at left tackle, one, and then you just keep Driscoll at right tackle, right? That's my first thought. But Mailata is also pretty good at right tackle, so I could see them doing that. Personally, I think you're a little bit better with Mailata at left and Driscoll at right. I think Driscoll's really good. Just because I don't think Mailata is as good at right tackle as he is at left. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's really a small sample size. We really only saw Mailata one game, I think it was. I think it was the first Dallas game last year, I think is what we saw him at right tackle. Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure what they do because Lane will still be out. So I guess it just depends on how they keep – like if Dillard keeps playing well, I think you probably put him back there. But at the same time, I mean, Mailata is definitely a little better than him. So I'm interested to see. And I believe Herbig was the swing guard. I don't think he was ever a swing tackle. He's always been an interior guy with us because his rookie year, he was kind of training under Kelsey to be the next center. But then over the summer, they kind of switched him to be more of a guard as well, which I don't know if he hadn't played. I think he had played that before, but I think they just kind of focused on training him at all three spots. So last year he played left and right guard pretty effectively, and he played center a little bit in preseason. So he can play all three spots, but I've never seen him go out and play tackle just because of his size. And he has lost weight, but I think that's more so just so he can pull in the run game as a pulling guard. I don't necessarily think he's going to play tackle at all. Maybe he just had the words mixed up, but I don't think he's played tackle at all. As far as tackle, who's our swing tackle? Well, obviously we have Mailata, Driscoll, Dillard. Mailata can kind of play both spots, but I think that Raven was supposed to be swing tackle, but I don't know if we kept him around. I know he was initially on the IR, but I believe we might have waived him. So, guess he didn't play too well or he wasn't healthy, possibly. Who knows? I haven't seen any news other than Jalen. Maybe my phone's usually on Do Not Disturb throughout the day, so maybe I missed something. I usually do miss the breaking news stuff. Actually, no, I usually get most of the breaking news stuff. But yeah, the Jalen Smith thing though, that was interesting. On the Packers now, they need linebacker help. Like I know Jalen Smith, he's not my favorite linebacker. Misses a lot of tackles. Doesn't really have the speed to catch up in pass coverage or carry crosses across the field. At the same time, I think he's been better this year when he's played. I know he didn't win the starting job or wasn't starting week 1, but kind of got forced into action with Keanu Neal going on COVID, and then you had Parsons moving out to edge because of DeMarcus Lawrence's injury. So he got opportunities, and I think he took advantage of some of them. I think he played better than I anticipated, so give him some credit there. And he was one of my bounce-back candidates through the year. I just thought that without them playing more of that, Mike Nolan, I don't know if, I just think with the 2 gap, it just wasn't benefiting them. They weren't able to play downhill as much. They're not necessarily doing that a ton more in Dan Quinn's scheme, but I think they've been able to just play a little bit more their style. So I've been impressed. I think Dan Quinn has done a really good job. And they've just, while they might not be top of the ranks in every category, they're getting turnovers. And that's what matters most, is that they're flipping the field when it matters and giving that offense a lot of opportunities. And that offense is already pretty high powered. So you give them an extra possession, that is huge for that Cowboys team. So I think that's been huge. But Jalen, I don't think is necessarily going to hurt the Cowboys a ton. They didn't really want to pay him. That's, something you consider. Does it really matter? I mean, would you rather have him there and him play at a pretty, an all right level, or would you rather just not have to pay him that contract? Or I think I still owe him a lot of money, but down the road have to owe him money next year, I think it was. Anyway, that was interesting. I think the Packers made the right move. That was short term, cheap. Makes sense for them. They need linebackers in there. Going on to Sanjay kind of touched up on the tight ends before we went out. Like he said, that linebacker position is not very exceptional. They do have Chin, who can help out, but if we're going to run some 12 personnel, Chin can't get both guys. And other safety position without Justin Burris is definitely lacking a little bit. And I believe Snow at Baylor was calling a lot of 3 safety sets, a lot of big nickel. I don't know if I've seen him do that a ton. I'll be honest, I got to watch more tape on him, but before our Saturday preview. But I do think that, I don't think he's going to run that a ton. And I do think that our tight ends are going to have an advantage in this game. Ertz and Goddard, I think, are both going to have some room to work with, especially if you're going to put a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, then our tight ends are going to be able to get behind those linebackers. That's going to be huge. So, I think their tight ends could feast this game, and you feed them. You feed the quick game with the wide receivers, so it's a screen game, just shallow crosses, mesh, whatever it may be. And the running backs in the pass game too. We kind of talked a lot about the offense. So against the Panthers defense. So I guess going on to our defense, I'm really interested to see how Slay does against DJ Moore. I think this will be a big matchup for him. We've seen Slay go up against a lot of top guys during his time in Philly, especially at the end of last year. He's done pretty well. I mean, Slay, to his credit, I think has played pretty well this year. I mean, last week I don't really put on him. He's not really much of a zone corner, or the past 2 weeks even. Not much of a zone corner, and when he's on guys, they don't do much damage. I think Tyreek Hill got a couple catches versus him last week. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe he was the culprit against a lot of them. I'm going to look that up to confirm. But I think it was Steven Nelson a lot of the time, and even Steven Nelson, I think he's played pretty well. And Tyreek Hill, I mean, you're going to need all the reinforcements, and then when you add in the rest of that offense and the fact that we don't really have much of a back end with the safeties, we don't really have much of a linebacker core. I mean, there's not really much you can do to defend. You're going to need a defense like the Bucs, who just have reinforcements everywhere and athletes everywhere. Not just athletes, guys who know the game too. Difference between athletes and guys who know the game as well. Okay, so Darius Slay did give up a good bit versus Tyreek Hill last week, but I mean, everyone did. So DJ Moore, really, really sharp route runner, good technique. I mean, he gets off the line pretty quick as well. Good. I mean, from Maryland, I remember watching him a little bit. that's going to be a challenge for our secondary. And especially with, we run a lot of 2 safeties, so guys are going to have help, but, you could get some cover 2 hole shots in there. You could get, even against cover 4, you're going to be able to get behind the linebackers. There's a lot you can do. You can run scissors as well to try to combat that cover 2 look. There's a lot of beaters you can run against these cover 2, cover 4 looks, and I'm really hoping that this defense doesn't get caught, taking the bait a lot of the time and getting beat over the top. Because while Darnold, I think, will probably live underneath most of the game, they can get you to kind of bring your guys in a little bit, or try to get a little too aggressive, and then they'll hit you over top by holding you with a route that's just long enough, like kind of a medium range, like 10 to 12-yard routes, and then they'll run someone else, and you got a one-on-one matchup downfield with a corner or with a safety who got left on an island in zone, who can't really carry or wasn't expected to have to carry a guy like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson down the field. Especially Robbie. Like, he might not put up a ton of numbers this year just because DJ's been that dude. Every once in a while, you might get a 58-yard catch from him that just comes out of nowhere. So Eagles defense is going to have their hands full for sure after giving up 40-plus points the past 2 weeks. Not what we expected after they held the Niners defense to, 17, I think, by the end of that game. And the Falcons offense, again, that's looking more and more like an anomaly. But, it still played really well. That's what you do against bad teams. You hold them to 6 points. So Robert says, I'm really concerned about Gannon and his defensive calls. It just seems that the D has taken 2 sets. Yeah, I completely agree. It's been kind of embarrassing. And I think part of it, Gannon doesn't have the personnel yet, kind of like Phil Snow didn't last year. I want to see Gannon with better personnel. But at the same time, even with bad personnel, there is stuff you can do to combat not getting beat by 40 points. And they only had 1 stop last week. It was the interception. They kind of got lucky. It wasn't a great throw by Mahomes. He probably shouldn't have made the decision. And I'll give Eric Wilson credit. He kind of baited that and did a good job just being in the right place at the right time. And then it was thrown behind him too. Even if it was thrown accurately, Wilson would have been in the right place. So, but other than that, they didn't get 1 stop. Literally, they got 1 stop the whole game. You got to get at least 2 to 3. That's got to happen. So I'm also with you on that, Robert. I'm concerned about Gannon as well. I thought, I probably should have known this coming in. I thought he was just going to run some more pressure looks. I think I more so thought that just because he came over from Minnesota. I know they didn't do a ton of that in Indianapolis, but he came over from Minnesota, and they put a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage. Mike Zimmer's good at getting pressure and dialing it up. But, like I said, they didn't do that a ton in Indianapolis. It's not really the Colts' defensive identity. I just thought with Schwartz, they would do it a little bit more. I guess that was just a result of seeing the 4-man rush so many times under Schwartz. Still a lot of 4-man rushes with Gannon, too, which I haven't loved. I'd like to see them. They dialed up that one, I don't know if it was like a cat corner blitz or something like that with against the Cowboys, where it was 28-14, and they brought guys off the edge and disguised pressure very well, and Dak Prescott didn't know where to go with the ball. And Dak Prescott's good at knowing where pressure's coming from usually. So that says a lot. So when he does dial up blitzes, they've been really, really nice, but he hasn't done it a lot of the time. Richie says, you think Coach Siri is working with wide receivers on how to do rub routes with wide receivers? Penalties for blocking downfield. Also, will Dillard be hesitant to block downfield RPOs now? Jalen's fault, too. Yeah. Sanjay kind of said it. The JJ call was, that was iffy. But at the same time, you got to know how to run that rub route so that you don't get penalized. That definitely could have been avoided. I think JJ is still to blame for that, and hopefully the rub routes can be a little bit better, especially in the red zone. You will get flagged for that because it's right there. It's a shorter amount of field. But I still think I think Sirianni will definitely be working on that. Sirianni is a former wide receiver himself. While he is the head coach, I think wide receivers, running backs, quarterback, he's going to be focusing on that. And obviously he's the offensive guy, but wide receivers especially, he's going to be focusing on. Because I think you saw him do a lot of work with guys like Pittman in Indianapolis, Pascal as well. This is going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think he's going to work with these young guys to get those rub routes down, get cleaner routes down so we're not getting forced to the sideline. I still think Devontae got pushed out a little bit, but at the same time, you can't let that happen. You got to leave yourself enough space that if you do get pushed, you can reestablish and all that. But it is what it is. And then with the RPOs, none of those have been Dillard's fault. He'll get the penalties for it in the stat sheet, but Jalen's got to get the ball out quicker. For the most part, I thought he looked better on the RPOs last week and just being decisive. But if you pull that handoff and you're looking to throw, you got to know that after 1 second, half a second, your guys are already downfield run blocking since an RPO. Like, you can't just still throw the ball after you've had it for like 3 seconds there. That's not going to work. You got to be able to know, okay, broken play, let me just run up the field, run pass option. You can run the ball yourself too. And if you don't have room, I don't know what to tell you. But you got to be more decisive on it and just read the situation a little bit better. Defenses, I think, are evolving and finding new ways to stop the RPO. But, there's still a lot of them where Jalen could have been better with decision making. So, while I don't fully blame Jalen for the loss last week, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a team effort. I do think that, like you said, it's Jalen's fault. And like you said, like that could affect Dillard to be hesitant because he's like, well, I already got a couple holding calls. I can't get an penalty on these RPOs now, or everyone's going to be ticked at me. That's what I would be thinking, at least. I mean, he's professional. So, yeah. I mean, and there were probably other guys who were ineligible men downfield other than Dillard. Dillard was probably just the first one down there. I'll have to go back and watch those couple of plays, but I'm sure they're going to be hesitant about it too. He's got to get the ball out quicker. And also, that comes down to not just Jalen. Like, they've got to coach him better to do that. I mean, that is, at the end of the day, that is Brian Johnson, Shane Steichen, and Nick Sirianni's job to coach him how to run those RPOs. That's their job at the end of the day. So, doesn't just fall all on Jalen. Big part of it is because maybe they are coaching him and he's just being hesitant with it, because I think you saw him in that Dallas game get a little hesitant. But, Richie, Sanjay was saying that exact same thing, that McCaffrey feels good about returning Sunday. So that's a whole nother problem. I mean, you're not going to – if the Eagles man up any linebackers on them, good night. You're not going to win doing that. I think they're going to go zone a good amount of the time. If I see Eric Wilson or Alex Singleton manned up on him, I might just turn off the TV at that point. I don't think we will. Gannon hasn't gone much man coverage this year. So, what's going on, Coach Dante? Good to see you in here. I'm about to wrap up. But any questions you guys got? I feel like I pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover. So, if you guys got any questions, drop them below. I mean, only other thing I could talk about is the special teams has been really, really good on some parts and not so good on other parts. Yeah, Richie, you do got to watch Sanjay later. And we'll be doing the preview on Saturday, so make sure you stop by for that. And Sanjay's also doing – I don't know if you saw, Richie, but on our page, Sanjay's been doing these sentence summaries where he just does like a 30-second video with one sentence on each team in each division. So that's on our channel. You can go check those out. I'm sure you would love those. I love hearing them. I mean, I think Sanjay does a really good job, and he writes those up and he takes a lot of time to really think of it, because one sentence to describe a team is really tough, and you're gonna tick off some fans doing that. But that's what we're here for. So, yeah, Aaron Sipas, I would say, has been awesome in the punt game. Good hang time, really good just getting the spin on the ball to get it to bounce back the other way so that we can down it. I mean, I don't know many times where he's kicked the ball and it's gone to the end zone. Maybe once where Shashere it bounced up and he threw it back because he was about to fall in the end zone, and then Zach McPherson had the opportunity to down it, and then he just did a little stumble and, for whatever reason, carried the ball with him to the end zone. I have no clue. But Elliott's been perfect. I mean, outside of the one field goal block, which isn't his fault, he's been perfect, so that's been good to see. I think he's got a confidence back for the time being. So hopefully that little confidence issue never comes back up for him again. But unfortunately, it's just a thing with Elliott where you can expect him to miss a couple mid-range shots, and he'll hit the 57-yarders, but, that's a whole other thing to talk about another time. Yeah, and as far as, you talk about Richie, the punt return team, Rager, I mean, we'll see. I think he's been all right. I think there's been some times where he's not been as great with vision. There's been some punt returns where he's been good with vision. I mean, punt return is tough just because you already have the disadvantage. I mean, guys are going to get down there, but if you can get like a 6 to 8 yard return, that's fine. We'll take that all day long. Kick returns, not been pleased with that. The blocking has not been set up well at all. There's always at least 2 to 3 guys who miss their blocks, and it ruins the whole thing. And Quez hasn't had much room to run, and I also don't think he's had great decisiveness with taking the kicks out. I don't love how he's taking some of them out at times. And, I think that they've got to be better in that aspect. Punts in terms of coverage, I think, have been good. McPherson and Shashere have gotten down the field quickly. They've done a good job of that. Other guys, like I think J-Joe's been good on special teams, whether it's getting a tackle and kickoff. He forced a fumble this past week, too. That was huge. I think that came right after the pick route. He forced that fumble. Maybe I'm wrong, but he made up for it quickly. Not made up for it. You can't make up for not having points. And we also didn't recover the fumble. That would have been huge. Pat Johnson's been on special teams too. Very passionate about that. There's a lot of guys who just contribute on special teams. Boston Scott's been out there busting his butt on, as a gunner on kicks. He has been out there. He's even on the punt block team, punt return team, which is just weird to see a 5'6" guy lining up over the right guard. It's really weird, but yeah, a lot of guys. Just good to see them contributing and just be a part of that. I think the punt team has been really good. So, guys, I don't think I have anything else I want to talk about. Robert says let's put McCaffrey on his rear end. Let's hope so. I would love to see that, but tough game coming up. We'll be doing our in-depth preview on Saturday, hopefully with a Panthers guy. We might have him on, might not. Sanjay knows the Panthers pretty well anyway, so if not, we got it covered. But thank you all for watching. We appreciate all the support. And, yeah, let us know if you guys have any questions. Drop them in the comments. Drop them in our page if you want to. And we'll see you guys later. Run, Bibby, run. Fly, goes fly. Peace out.
Welcome to the BirdGang Nation Sports Media Show, repping the greatest team of all time. Let's go! BirdGang 31, he be the host with the most. We going deep, burning teams. They ain't nothing but toast. It's in your rest there. Sirianni put me in coach, running like Miles Sanders till I bump my head on the post. Touchdown! Yeah, that's coming. Devontae's crazy route running. Jalen hurting them, throwing lasers to Rager, young gunning. Come on! On the D side, we ride, sack him with Fletcher, lay him out on the stretcher. No one can protect you. Watch Darius lay him, shutting down your routes. Come on! In my green John, eating Philly cheesesteaks. Put up your cups, wings up, if you can relate. Tailgating at the link like Cancer Stride. To the BirdGang Nation, that's worldwide. On Sundays, catch the pre and post game. Mondays is Birds on Broad Street with Philly Notion and Cool Cat, the man in motion. And Wednesdays, the midweek special got you open with JC from Eagles Talk, hitting like B-Dog, baby.